Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to learn two ways to deal with exceptions. One by ignoring them, and the other by catching them and handling them properly. We are going to build a flow that visits a list of company websites, one after another. It starts with an inject node, renamed start, because a flow needs something to set it off. Since we need to visit web pages, the open browser node launches Chrome on the robot. Next, the list itself. A function node called company sites builds it in JavaScript. In a real automation, that list would come from a spreadsheet, a database, or an API. Here it is written into the flow, so we know exactly what the loop is working with. And a debug node, so we can see exactly what the function put on the message. Double-click the function node, and the code editor opens. 3 companies, each one an object with a name and a URL, all on a field called rows. A function is handed the message object and has to hand it back. That is what the return line does. Close the editor. That array is the list the loop is going to walk. Let us run it on a robot and look at the output. The nodes light up in order as the robot reports each step back. And the debug node prints the whole message object down in the dev console. There is our rows field, an array of 3. 3 objects, each with a company and a URL. That is what the loop will iterate over. To go through those rows one at a time, we need the for each node, which takes an array. For each has 2 output ports, and they mean different things. The upper one fires once for every item, and the lower one fires when the loop has finished. So the done port goes to a stop node. That is where the flow ends. And the each item port goes to open link, the node that actually visits a page. One click on for each URL opens its properties. Loop through object is the array to walk. It is on the message under rows. Current item is the name each row arrives under while the loop is inside it. Call it row. Now open link, which needs to know which URL to open. The URL comes off the message too, the current row, and the URL inside it. Open in the same tab matters here. Without it, every URL opens a new Chrome window. The pacing lives up in common, the block of settings every node shares. 2 seconds before each link, so there is time to see the page it opened. Save, and the robot will run what we just set. One thing is still missing. Open link visits a page, and then the flow stops there. Nothing sends it back for the next row, so we add a label named next URL in front of the loop. And a GoTo node after open link, pointing at that label. A loop in a visual flow is a wire you draw, not something the for each does by itself. Now let us run it. A real Chrome opens on the robot machine, and the first link is loading. Stripe first. 2 seconds later, the GoTo sends the flow back to the label. For each hands out the next row, and paddle opens in the same tab. Then the third, Payoneer, and the loop has nothing left to hand out. The done port fires, the stop node ends the flow, and the browser closes. This is what we call the happy path. Every row is good and everything works. In the real world, your list is not that tidy. Somebody leaves a cell empty. So let us do that on purpose. Open the function node again. The 3 rows are still here, exactly as we wrote them. Take the URL off the middle row and leave paddle with an empty string. Save it and close the editor. Save the flow too, because the robot runs what is saved, not what is on your screen. The list still has 3 rows. One of them just cannot be opened. Run it again and watch what happens on the second row. The first link opens. Then open link is handed a row with no URL, and it throws. The designer stops the run right there and shows you what went wrong. Node execution error. URL cannot be empty on the open link node. The report names the node, the package it came from, and the type of the error. In the designer, The run waits here for a developer to look at it. In production, nobody is looking. An unhandled exception simply stops the flow. There are two ways to deal with this, and the first one is to ignore it. Every node has a continue on error checkbox in its common settings. Tick it, and a failure in this node no longer stops the flow. Save it and run again. Run it once more, with the empty row still in the list. The first link opens, the empty one fails quietly, and the loop moves straight on. The third link opens and the flow ends normally. The exception was ignored. That is the right answer when a failure is expected, and there is nothing to do about it. But it tells you nothing, and it gives you no chance to react. For that, we need a catch node. A catch node subscribes to the failures of other nodes in the flow. It has no input. It is a trigger. It fires when a node it is watching throws. We wire it to the GoTo, so a row that fails jumps straight to the next one. And a second debug node on the catch to see what it hands the flow. First, take the ignore back off. We want the failure to reach the catch node. Continue on error and a catch node are alternatives, not a pair. Now open the catch node itself. Target nodes lists the other nodes in this flow, and a catch catches only the ones you tick. We want open link, the node that fails on an empty URL. Save it. Run it again with the catch node in place. The empty row fails, and this time the catch fires instead of the run stopping. On the surface that looks exactly like continue on error, the loop skipped a row and finished. The difference is where the flow continues from. It continues from the catch node. And the catch puts the failure on the message under a field called error. The message, the error code, and the name of the node that threw it. Which means you can act on it, branch on the code, retry, or send a notification. That is the whole distinction. Ignoring a failure is silent, catching one hands it to you. Ticking nodes one at a time does not scale. A real flow has 50 of them. And catching everything catches the failures you have already dealt with. The answer is a subflow. The whole browsing loop moves inside one node called visit URLs. Start runs the subflow comes back, and the stop node ends the flow. Double-click the subflow node to go inside it. Everything that was in the main flow is here, with two differences. A subflow starts at a begin node, not a trigger, and it leaves through an end node, not a stop. And there is a catch node in here in this scope. Open it. Its target nodes list holds only this subflow's own nodes. Nothing outside is even offered. Tick open link, the one we know can fail, and handle it quietly right here. It is wired back to the GoTo, so a bad row is skipped and the loop carries on. Now back out to the main flow. And save. A subflow is part of the flow it belongs to, and it is saved with it. Out here the catch node is the same node, but its list is not the same list. The whole loop is gone from it. Visit URLs is one entry, because out here that is one node. Tick it, and this catch watches everything inside the subflow that the inner one does not. If the inner catch handles an error, the outer one never sees it, exactly like a try and catch pair. Save it. So let us break something the inner catch is not watching at all. Company Sites now reads its list from a source that is not there and throws before the loop starts. Run it. The failure happens deep inside the subflow, in a node no catch in there is watching. So it comes up out of the subflow, and the catch in the main scope takes it. The error is on the message again, with the node that actually threw it. And because we caught it, we chose what happens next, log it, and stop cleanly. Without that catch, the flow would simply have stopped where it broke. So, two ways to handle an exception. Continue on error to ignore it, and a catch node when you want to do something about it. And a subflow to decide what each catch is responsible for. Thank you for watching.